could just eat that dal right now. It looks so good. Now, everybody has a couple of recipes they cook over and over again. For Rick, it's that dal, of course. Mine is something a little different. It's a classic scone recipe and surprisingly simple to make. I put eggs in mine. Now, some people don't, but this is my sort of variation out of it. I use strong flour instead of plain flour. I use baking powder, sugar, butter, of course, bit of milk, sultanas, egg wash to egg wash it, and 2 whole eggs. And then I'm going to make some instant, or rather roughly instant, strawberry jam. I'm going to start off with some jam sugar over there, some lemon, get that on, and just really get that melting. So it's the juice of a lemon, and get that melting first of all with a tiny bit of water, and that'll cook down. Because I think with jam you've got to cook it as quick as possible to keep the flavour of all the nice fruit. So a bit of water in there, really bring that to the boil, rapidly cook it for about 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll finish it all off. Meanwhile, I'm going to add the rest of these ingredients in. So flour, all in, sugar, all in, baking powder, all in. In we go with the butter, and just rub this together. Now, this is my old granny's recipe, because this is actually my grandmother's chopping board.
Is it?
And the one that's in front of you here. And then what she used to do was, used to rub the butter together while watching Corrie.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes later, it'd all be just mixed in nicely.
Yeah.
You had little
EastEnders?
I've got about sorry, we're on the BBC, EastEnders.
Yeah. Did before our time.
But it was up north. But there you go. So we literally rub this together. Now, of course, we mentioned at the top of the show, food was a big passion in your life.
Yeah,
really.
it still is a big passion in my life, unfortunately.
But you know, working in a fish and chip shop, fruit and vegetable.
Fruit, yeah.
But I've been reading your sort of biography. Very, very mixed start, really, at the start with, because you did fish and chip shop, fruit and veg stall.
Yeah.
How on earth do you then go from that to selling encyclopedias in Germany?
Very quickly. The thing was, you know, I was looking for an adventure, and I just answered an ad in the newspaper, and they wanted people to go and sell in Germany, and I went along and I had an interview in London, and the one question they asked me was, "Have you ever sold anything before?" And I said, "Well, I've been working in shops selling things since I was a little boy, and I sell fruit and vegetable on the market."
Yeah.
And the 2 guys who were interviewing me looked at each other, and that was it. I was on my way, you know.
And that was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Were you any good at it or not?
Well, I was absolutely hopeless. I was very good at selling fruit and vegetables, but I was hopeless at selling encyclopedias.
Right.
I then found I was hopeless at selling correspondence courses, selling cars, and I finished up working on a building site. So the sales, the sales part of my life was over and out very quickly.
But from there, I mean, reading your book, you go into a corrosion control engineer.
I was a corrosion control engineer, yeah. That was, yeah. Well, I just met somebody who was working in that field. He was working in that area of the oil business, and I'd done physics and chemistry at school, not very successfully, but I'd remembered the sort of basics, and that was all I needed to get starting as a trainee corrosion control technician.
And that was it. So there you go. We've rubbed that together. I'm going to throw in the sultanas now.
Yeah.
Then we've got the 2 eggs.
You make this look so easy. I mean, I diddle around forever doing things like
2 eggs and a little bit of milk. We put half in first of all. The thing is about scone mix, you've got to make it by hand. It creates a much lighter batter. You've got the sugar there. See all that mixing up? At that point, we can then throw in our strawberries.
Not whisk it electronically.
No, you must make it by hand. Keeps it nice and soft as well. Yeah. But of course, all that brought you to your late 20s.
Yeah.
Where then acting was.
Acting came in on this. Well, acting sort of started when I was in my early 20s, because I started to do amateur stuff as I went along. I found that was a way to meet people and something I'd sort of discovered I could kind of do.
Yeah.
And it gave me a hobby and something to really sort of concentrate on, and then one thing led to another, and I finished up going and doing an audition for the professional theatre in Eastern Canada, in Nova Scotia, and I became an actor.
And then came back to the UK.
I came back to the UK.
Wasn't it the Triangle? You were working with Kate O'Mara, was it?
Yeah, Kate O'Mara, and that happened a sort of 2 or 3 years after I'd come back, and I got sort of cast to play this chief engineer on a North Sea ferry, and the captain was Michael Craig, and the chief purser was Kate O'Mara, and we were the Triangle.
You were played a bit of a sex symbol.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to be a bit of a sex symbol. I was, I was a trainee sex symbol, is what I was.
I'd love to have watched it, but I was too busy watching,
Kate O'Mara. Yeah.
No, I was only 10 then.
You were.
It was just a young helicopter
lad.
Priorities in my life. But there you go.
There you go.
So we've got our scone mix like that, and then just quickly we're just going to use a little bit of flour now, because we mix it by hand. We only use a small amount of flour now, just to roll this out.
Yeah, and you literally do mix by hand. You don't even use a wooden spoon.
No. You've got to mix it by hand. Yeah, roll it all out like that. There you go.
Is that because it keeps it sort of like it keeps it slightly apart rather than grinding
Yeah,
it
well,
all
the
together?
problem is if you mix flour together in any form, it toughens it up.
Yeah.
Be it when you're making bread or anything. It's ideal when you're making bread because you use a machine.
Yeah.
For this, because of cakes, you want to bake it.
Yeah.
You've got to keep things nice and light. You remember when
As
your
much
grandma
air as you can in there.
Remember when your grandma used to give you those shortbread things and you used to put it in your mouth and dissolve?
Yeah.
They never had machines and they used to mix it by hand.
No,
and
exactly.
That's what I'm trying to replicate now.
Yeah.
So the strawberries get cooked for a good 20 minutes. Keep reducing it like that, and we're just going to cut these out nicely like that.
Yeah.
But the film that I did see you in, I have to say, was
Here we
Buster.
go. Buster, yeah.
Buster.
1988.
How do you get Buster?
With Phil Collins. Well, I'd already done a film about the Great Train Robbery for the BBC, a film that was called Slip Up, and then eventually it became known as The Great Paper Chase.
Yeah.
And that was all about Ronald Arthur Biggs when they found him in Brazil. And so I read about this in the newspaper. I was in Italy doing a television series in Italy, and I read in an English newspaper that they were going to do a film about the Great Train Robbery starring Phil Collins. And I thought, well, the one job I'm not going to be involved in is that. Right. Next thing you know, I got my agent on the phone and said, they want you to get on a plane and fly back to London and talk to Phil Collins about being in the film. So I did, and I got it. And that was it.
Fantastic.
So we went
and that was it, because then you were in Essex Boys and bits and pieces. But recently, of course, EastEnders.
EastEnders, yeah. God, that was a bit of luck, wasn't it?
But
EastEnders and Gavin and Stacey simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly. You were playing them both at the same time, though, were you?
Back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not very common, that, because it's an incredible amount of your time.
In the old
really.
days, it would have never happened, you know. It wouldn't have happened, because the trouble is that with these television programmes, it's the scheduling. It's not whether they want you or not. It's can they fit schedules together, you know, because it's very, you know, when they take you on a contract, they've got you in a block of time and they need you for so many days. And when they've got you on contract, they want you on those days.
That's it, yeah.
And so the woman at the top of the BBC, who loved Gavin and Stacey and loved EastEnders, she said, well, I'm afraid you're going to have to make this work. So the two production teams made the two schedules interlock. And that was it. So I did both. And that was the easy bit.
I mean, how do you get to write? Because you actually wrote your own autobiography. How do you get to do that at the same time as everything
else? Not easy
else?
when you've just learned to join your letters up. But,
no, spell check.
Yeah, spell check. No. I write longhand. I don't use all that technology. No, the thing is, I've written for years. You know, I've written different things, but I've never actually been asked to write something specifically. And because if you're an actor, you spend a lot of time working on working literature that's been written by some of the finest in the world. You know, Shakespeare and Arthur Miller. You know,
and this is all in your new book, Mummy's Boy.
In my book, Mummy's Boy. There you go.
Right, just look, I've rolled out the scones here. Now, what I don't do is secondary roll it out. So a lot of people have the leftover bits and they re-roll it.
You don't
Big
do
mistake.
that.
It toughens it up.
And you bake all the bits and pieces all like that separate, and that's the cook's perks,
and that's the cook or the kid's perks.
That's
the idea is you pop this in the fridge. So egg wash it with just plain egg yolk. Pop it in the fridge for about an hour, or preferably overnight if you want to, and then bake it. This has gone in 400 degrees Fahrenheit, about 200 degrees centigrade, gas mark 5 for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, taken out.
And these could stand overnight in the fridge, could it?
It can stand.
It won't dry out.
No,
too
absolutely
much.
not. No. And then
uncovered, not covered, in the fridge.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Depends what's in your fridge, Larry.
Yeah, but what I mean is fridges tend to dry things out.
No, my fridge.
Right.
Well, it's the other smells that are in there. There's just a case of beer in my fridge, so it doesn't really matter. Oh, I haven't been there for a while. There, we've got in here. Right now, look at this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go butter. Now I did this in rehearsal, and people sort of squinted when I put butter on it.
Yeah, that's all
but
right.
it's how it should be. Butter. There's your jam.
Yeah.
Nice and soft.
Then you put a dot of cream on there, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Whoop.
Yeah. None of this beetroot and this...
No, beetroot, all that stuff.
Butternut squash stuff.
Look at
that. Look at that. Proper grub.
That's your one with the big
That's your breakfast. I'll tell you what, I don't normally eat at this point, but yeah, you go.
There you go,
dive
go
into
for
that
it.
bit.
Fabulous.
Because if I don't eat it, these crew will eat it.
There you go. And the eyes are all sort of glinting out there in the dark.
Should we test those, James?
No, we don't do that.
I think we should. Just
send them over.
Quality control.
Right, I saved my chef's whites for